I wrote a book inspired by the idea that humans are going to go extinct one day. Let me explain. I studied chemistry and physics at uni, and I got a book deal before I graduated, so I went straight into writing full time, which was amazing, but it meant that I didn't really use my degree a lot in my job. And I really missed it. It felt like physics and algebra was this language that I'd learned, that I spoke in every day. I used to actually dream in algebra because I'd be doing some coursework before I went to sleep and get stuck and go to bed and then wake up in the morning knowing the solution. After I graduated, I started reading physics books for fun, which is not something I ever thought I would do. It's not something I've done since, but for a few years there I did. And one of them was a book by Carlo Rovelli called 7 Brief Lessons on Physics. The essays had this quote in it: "We are a short-lived genus of species. All our cousins are already extinct. We are perhaps the only species on Earth to be conscious of the inevitability of our own mortality. I fear that soon we shall also become the only species that will knowingly watch the coming of its own collective demise, or at least the demise of its civilization." So what that's saying is that it's 100% likely that humans are going to go extinct, whether that's in 100 years because of climate change or in 100 billion years after we've spread out across the galaxy. It's definitely going to happen, and because we are sentient, because we are aware of how many of us there are on the planet, there's probably going to be one last human who knows they are the last human. I thought that was a really interesting start to a story, because what would it like to be the last person and grow up knowing that you're inheriting a world that is doomed? How do you live a life full of meaning? How do you push yourself to study and progress your skills when you know there's going to be no use for it? I also write for teenagers, and I know that a lot of students I talk to today are growing up with that feeling that they are inheriting a doomed planet and there is no point getting an education because there will be no jobs for them. So I took this idea of humans going extinct and I tried to turn it into a young adult novel about the last boy and girl born trying to find meaning in this empty, lonely world. Started by researching other animals that have gone extinct, from the dodo to the dinosaurs to the woolly mammoth to the Neanderthals. And then one of the things I found was something called the Cambrian explosion. 500 million years ago, when the ocean was very empty, there wasn't much in there except little worms and bacteria on the ocean floor, there was this explosion of life where we went from very basic life forms on the ocean floor to suddenly seeing things with weird trunks and exoskeletons and spikes and armor plating. All of these appeared at once because one particular body part evolved that was really useful for those little creatures on the ocean floor. Eyes. Eyes appeared because one of those little worms got a really sensitive bit of skin on the top of its body that was able to detect light. And when it can detect light, it can detect when a shadow passes overhead, and so it can hide in the sand from things coming down to swoop in and eat it, and it can survive long enough to pass on that mutation to its kids, and they will then survive longer as well, and eventually that bit of mutated skin starts to curve upwards and get light from more directions, and eventually bulge out of the body and then turn into the eyes we have today. Something is better at hiding from predators, it's also better at hunting. So suddenly all of these little worms had to come up with defensive features to protect themselves from the predators, which now had eyes and could see where they were. And this led to this explosion of life very quickly in the fossil records. Most of these creatures look totally wild to us today. They're not like anything we have on Earth right now. And that is because most of them then quickly went extinct again. The ones that did survive managed to crawl out of the ocean and evolve into those dodos and dinosaurs and Neanderthals and eventually us. But if one of those had survived that didn't, we could look really different today. And there's no reason to think we are not at that stage in our evolution right now. And 500 million years in the future, someone might dig up fossils of our bodies and think our skeletons looked really weird and strange and unusual and unlike anything that exists on Earth. I decided I wanted to include that in my story. The question of what if we are only at the beginning of the Homo sapiens evolutionary journey, and there is so much more to come for what our species looks like and how it is going to evolve into the future. If you'd like to learn more about that, check out my book, The Quiet at the End of the World by Lauren James, where I answer lots of these questions. But maybe don't look up any reviews first because there are lots of twists and I don't want you to get spoiled.